What is up, YouTube? I am Cosmic Fro, and today I'm going to be making a video talking about what is next for MK. Right now it's kind of a dark time for MK, the MK community as a whole. We see the conversations on Twitter, we see the dialogue happening around Mortal Kombat 1, we see the dialogue around Warner Brothers and NetherRealm and their design philosophy with Mortal Kombat as of recent. Now, I think having a dialogue is healthy. I think getting your opinion out there, regardless if, you as an individual think it's incorrect or correct. I think you have to observe from the outside and sort of take in everything being said and understand sort of the position of the entire community. And that's sort of where I stand from, as well as my own, sort of personal take in history with MK. I'm going to tell you guys a story. As young as I can remember, I was probably, 6 or 7. I played Mortal Kombat for the first time. I played Mortal Kombat 2 and UMK3 on an emulated cabinet at one of my friends' houses when we were younger. And, that memory has stuck with me over the years. I played Armageddon on the OG Xbox with my cousins growing up. And I remember in 2008, when Mortal Kombat vs. DC came out, that was the first time I really owned a Mortal Kombat game on my own, and I was completely just invested in that franchise from then on. Right when I had owned Mortal Kombat, a Mortal Kombat game, even though it was the DC versus DC version, I was in love. I couldn't step away from Mortal Kombat, and I had been playing it and had loved the game from the first time I had played it. And then in 2011, I was 11 at the time, coming into my middle school teenage years. Mortal Kombat 9 drops, and I couldn't stop playing that game. You really had to be there to understand how big Mortal Kombat 9 was for the time period. It really did set an example for what fighting games could be for the future, and it was an example for the entire gaming industry, right? This was a step up from anything they have done before. They obviously brought it back to 2D, but in doing so, they made the gameplay of it it is what NetherRealm games are today, right? It is the foundation for what NetherRealm games would become, switching from their 3D pivot and back to 2D in the best way possible, keeping the DNA of what Mortal Kombat was, the identity of the characters, making the fatalities cooler than they ever have been, and making the gameplay fun to watch and exciting. The pace of the game was fantastic for all levels of play. You could play on the lowest level of play and still have a lot of fun with the game, throw some specials out there, and enjoy your time playing Mortal Kombat 9. And then at the, competitive level of the game, you had extremely fast-paced gameplay. You would see the reactive plays, the strategies come into play. You would see the battle of minds at a pace that was very fun to watch, very fun to play, and for the competitors, it was a time to be alive. I remember just watching and learning from the match footage of say DJT, Rio, Tom Brady, and of course Perfect Legend. There were a lot of really fun players to watch for the time with different mindsets about the game, different strategies, and you would see them clash in a battle that you could only dream to watch. A game changer, to say the least. After Mortal Kombat 9, of course, we got Injustice, and I did play that game. We won't be talking much about Injustice, but we will be pulling some things from Injustice and talking about it in a separate video, so stay tuned for that. But Mortal Kombat X, comes out in, I believe, 2015, and again, is another evolution to what Mortal Kombat is. It brings the pace of the gameplay to an even faster pace. It makes the game insane with its 50/50 potential, and it adds the visuals that Mortal Kombat 9 was sort of known to bring to MKX. It was yet again another graphical leap, another step forward for Mortal Kombat, and was one of the most fun games to watch at a high level. It was accessible for low-level players, right? There was an execution requirement to the game, which, led to fulfillment for players that wanted to get more invested into Mortal Kombat X. The game was very, very fun to play, fun to watch, and yet again was an evolution for the staircase that is Mortal Kombat, right? This was also the period of time where they started, experimenting with variations and introducing player choice into sort of making your character what it could be. But what that experiment turned out to be is, one variation would be better than the other two, because each character had three variations they could choose from for Mortal Kombat X. And it just turned out that, there would be one or two variations that were the best for that character, and that was that, right? Again, still a step up, still an evolution, and even though the variations were there and maybe took away from other resources they could have invested in, it still was fun to play, and that was the most important thing about Mortal Kombat X. Moving past Injustice 2 and into Mortal Kombat 11, there were a lot of mixed feelings for me personally, and I think the entire community as a whole. For me, it felt like they stepped up the visuals. They stepped up the showcase of the game. They made it look great. But for some reason, they decided to simplify and take away from the pace and the excitement that they had built in their previous two games. They decided to reel it back and bring it to a more simplified version of Mortal Kombat. This completely split a lot of the community right from the get-go. A lot of players that went to go playtest the game immediately recognized that the pace was slower, the combo creativity wasn't there how it used to be, there weren't any movement options for expression, and at its base, there were a lot of flawed mechanics with the breakaway mechanic, having them break away out of a combo and then punishing you for landing your hit, say, or having to drop your combo early, the same combo that you do every time because you don't have that much combo expression in Mortal Kombat 11. You have to drop it early to avoid being punished, not to mention bar filling automatically over time, having the ability to use this automatic bar to roll on your wake up away from any sort of meaty or oaky situation, and then punish them potentially for that situation. The only saving grace, the only cool mechanic that Mortal Kombat 11 had with potential for combo expression were the crushing blows, right? The crushing blow mechanic, even though some of them were just extremely high damage enders with requirements to them, they did add some spice to the game that I think was much needed. Again, I don't agree with the high damage that the crushing blows would allow, but we will get to this topic. And now, obviously, 2023 to now, we're playing Mortal Kombat 1, the reboot with Liu Kang as the god, which introduces a lot of new things and a lot of controversial things. Obviously, the big one is the cameo system. They made Mortal Kombat 1 an assist fighter, not a tag fighter, an assist fighter, which for some people was exciting at the time, and others it was a takeaway from the one-on-one combat that Mortal Kombat was known for. I personally was open to the idea of an assist fighter. I liked the creativity it offered coming from Mortal Kombat 11 to 1. We had a lot more combo creativity with these assists. We also had air combos, more combo strings. They got rid of the variation system and the automatic bar building that was plaguing the game design of Mortal Kombat for the past 4 years. And that was really refreshing, right? Coming into this new game, it was refreshing to see that there was a lot more positivity surrounding the game. But at its base, once again, there are flaws. The one big thing is, once again, the pace of the game. If you look at Mortal Kombat 11, even though they took a step back in some directions, you can see that the speed of some of these strings are faster than that of Mortal Kombat 1. In fact, much faster than Mortal Kombat 1. It's very based in realism, these strings. You're seeing a lot of these combos with slow moving strings, slow startup specials, right? It's very slow paced. Even though there is creativity, it's easy to track with your eye. You know what's coming, especially when there's an assist on screen to enforce what you're going to do. You know what is coming as a viewer, as a watcher. You know what is going to happen. Throw animations and fatal blows are extremely long and sort of take away from that pace. I think if you were to count the time it takes for a fatal blow to end, it would be like 8 seconds, right? Which is insane. Not to mention just the sort of ignorant playstyles that were introduced with assists, where you could armor and then sort of use an assist to cover that armored wake up attack, or you could wake up armor and then teleport away, which would sort of negate any punish on reading them right for their usually unsafe special. The argument being they're using the resource to do this. This is why they chose the cameo. But for a lot of players, this just introduced frustration. There's a lot of what they would call ass play styles or ignorant play styles that required little to no thought. And for people getting deeper into Mortal Kombat 1, over time, we all slowly understood that the barrier to entry for a lot of these strong strategies just didn't take that much execution, on top of just not being that fun to watch or even play sometimes. The pace being as slow as it is in the moment to moment gameplay is predictable, and in reality doesn't offer as much player choice as some of the other fighting games on the market today. Not to mention the missing features and the fact that it was an incomplete game at launch, right? It didn't launch with crossplay. It didn't launch with online practice. It didn't launch with rooms. We still don't have rooms. There's no easy way to interact with, say you have a community of your own and you want to meet these people in a room. You cannot do that. You have to go to a King of the Hill and then wait to play certain people, right? Or you can go to a private match and nobody else can watch you play this private match. Nobody else can wait. Nobody else can, you'd have to leave the game and then re-invite, right? There's no easy, simple way to switch between, playing multiple of your friends or, all sort of enjoying your time in a room. This could be the fault of WB. This could be the fault of NetherRealm. It could be a combination of both. But we're not here to speculate that. We're here to talk about what this means for the next game and talk about some ideas that I personally would love to see come to Mortal Kombat, a combination of the best aspects of Mortal Kombat in this next game, bringing passion back to Mortal Kombat, and maybe introduce some ideas here that if any of the devs are watching or anybody that cares, right, wants to take any of this, go for it, because this is something that I, would like to see personally. Now, the big question is, what is Mortal Kombat known for? Well, I'll tell you. It's known for its one-on-one combat, its gore, and its pace. It's always been exciting to watch Mortal Kombat. So let's talk about the pace of this next game first. We're not talking about the competitive aspect of the game. We're talking about the fun aspect of the game. When I talked with Tyler Lansdowne at EVO, the most important thing about Mortal Kombat is the fun of the game, right? And we have to make that fun for every player in the scene. One thing about Mortal Kombat that isn't great with the more recent titles is the fact that we're basing this pace in realism. We're making the strings and all of the things fit what an actual human would do, when that shouldn't necessarily be the case. When we do that, when we base it in realism, when we slow it down to what real hits would look like, we take away from sort of the superpowered excitement that makes these ninjas and characters feel supernatural and special, right? When we're watching other games, when we're watching Street Fighter, we're watching Guilty Gear, we see these crazy characters. We don't see their attacks hitting slow. All of the motions still fit what a human body would do, but they aren't, the pace of these strings aren't based in realism, because that makes it more exciting. When these characters are canceling and doing fast, quick movements, it's really exciting not only for the viewer, but for the player, because it's engaging on offense and defense. These characters aren't just humans. They're supernatural icons with their own sort of identity, their own way that they make themselves feel identifiable. And that can still be expressed without having it be as slow as it is, right? We can make it an evolution from what it was before, just make it exciting, right? We don't need to base it in realism, is my point here. Long animations also contribute to this pace. When we're doing command throws, when we're doing throws, right? These take an extremely long time to finish. Like when you're in the middle of a match and one of these things happen, when you see these things multiple times, when you see them 1,000 times, it just gets redundant. You kind of just put down your controller for a second, right? It's not fun for a lot of players. And so I think speeding up all of these animations, right? All the throws, all of the fatal blows, you make the fatal blows quick like MK9. So you're still sort of ready for the next moment, right? You're not just putting down your controller and tapping A for, to make it more engaging for an 8 to 10 second fatal blow. You don't need to spend your resources there. That's not what players look for. They don't look for the spectacle. We want to play an exciting Mortal Kombat game. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is the one-on-one aspect of Mortal Kombat. Cameos were interesting, right? They introduced a lot of new things that Mortal Kombat hadn't seen before. Creativity in different ways to express and play your character. But for a lot of fans, this was divisive. It took away from the identity of Mortal Kombat being a one-on-one fighter, right? At its base, this is just at its core. When people saw that it was an assist fighter where you picked another character, it wasn't appealing for some longtime fans. In fact, somehow, even with these assists, it still felt like a step down from what they had done in, say, MK9 and MKX, right? Like these Injustice, even these games with fast-paced moments. It just didn't fit what NetherRealm had been known for, what a lot of fans had known NetherRealm for. To speak on cameos to a personal level, yes, there's a lot of counterplay. There are different ways to play characters with cameos. But ultimately, when a cameo comes onto the screen, it becomes predictable as to what's going to happen next because of how sort of slow the pace is, and the fact that there's no sort of push block or defensive mechanic to counteract this situation. Your only recourse for blocking an unsafe block string into Kano, and then having to block another string. The only way to negate some of that damage or make that situation a little bit more exciting for the watcher is to flawless block and then watch them try and stagger their pressure and take their turn back, right? That is the only excitement that is allowed from this cameo. There are intricacies, there are different ways to play different cameos, but a lot of players, the consensus is a lot of people don't like that direction. And so for this next game, we bring it back to 1v1 combat. We bring the pace back. We make these characters, these ninjas, feel like they're trying to kill you. They're supernatural beings, right, on the screen, and they feel larger than life and larger than what is real and what we see on the screen. The next thing, and I think we have to clarify this for WB, for all of the higher ups, right? Gore is essential to Mortal Kombat. It identifies this game as its own thing. We keep what they have been doing with the gore and maybe even bring it back to what they used to do with, say, even MK9. Now, if you haven't played MK9, in Mortal Kombat 9, when you would land multiple hits on a character, their skin, their flesh would start to fall away in certain parts, right? There was an intense amount of blood that would fall off the character and onto the floor or on the clothing, and it made it feel even more intense. It made Mortal Kombat, with all of the color that it had in MK9, larger than life supernatural feeling. Like, oh my god, Sonya's jaw is starting to show, right? Like, these characters are really, really trying to hurt each other. And in these newer iterations of the game, they sort of toned it down. They gave them cuts, and you can still see the blood and stuff. But after a fatal blow or after multiple punches in the same area, we don't have that same gore that was present in Mortal Kombat 9. Again, for tournament play, for esports, for selling it to other countries that might not like that stuff, you default the option to turn that off. You can have the option to turn that off so that it doesn't conflict with anything you're trying to do. But I think you bring back that sort of intense battle damage that was before Mortal Kombat 9 that made it sort of exciting to see these characters beat the crap out of each other, right? It's fun for the casuals. It's fun for the viewers. It brings excitement to the fights that are going on. And so personally, I think we bring that back. We, of course, incorporate brutalities, fatalities, mercy. That was a fun one, right? Any of the alities, right? We try and bring those back into Mortal Kombat and stay on theme with what gore brings to Mortal Kombat, because that's what a lot of fans and casuals love about Mortal Kombat. It's what you see on the screen with the gore, the wow factor when you're seeing these things happen to the characters. And so that's why I think it still needs to be a staple going forward. All that being said, with having the 1v1 combat return, the larger than life supernatural feeling pace of these intense fighting games, and having the excitement of moment-to-moment gameplay with the added excitement of the gore from the viewer perspective and the player perspective, I think these are all things that will make this next Mortal Kombat game very successful, on top of just having your ninjas on the box art, right? Now here is where I'm going to talk about some ideas and introduce some things that maybe you guys have heard of before, maybe you guys are familiar with, and you will recognize if you have played past games, all incorporated into multiple different ideas here. Now again, if any of the devs are watching, if anybody at NetherRealm takes interest in this video, if anybody who loves Mortal Kombat takes interest in this video, feel free to use this. Feel free to take inspiration. I don't care. I want what's best for Mortal Kombat, and these are just things I personally would love to see for the future. I have no interest in taking credit. I just want to bring hope and passion back to Mortal Kombat, and hopefully some of these ideas will inspire. Now, what were some of the most exciting things revealed about characters or upcoming characters coming to MK1? What built the most hype? Well, that's exactly it. It was hype. It was the hype mode for Johnny Cage. It was the install super for Noob Saibot. These install mechanics for these two characters brought a lot of excitement for them. I remember when Johnny Cage was revealed, Everybody thought this is really cool. This is so awesome that they introduced this hype mechanic to Johnny Cage. And in playing it, it is one of the most fun mechanics for a character in Mortal Kombat 1. What was the most exciting thing about Noob Saibot leading up to his release? It was the fact that he might have another sort of mode to him, this install mode, where all of his specials would become more powerful for a short, brief period, much like Johnny Cage's hype mode. In practice, it might not be as effective or useful, but it had its utility. What am I getting at here? For this next Mortal Kombat game, why not give everybody an install sort of mechanic, every character on the roster? Let's say we have a gauge next to the meter at the bottom of the screen, much like traits in Injustice, where you have an install meter that builds slowly over time, and say at the end of the round or at the start of the next round, you use it for a brief period of say 8 to 10 seconds. Let's say the timer gets longer the lower your health is, and accentuate each character's sort of archetype, the way they want to play. It would give the casuals a way to feel even more powerful for that brief moment, allow them to have more fun with their character, and just be exciting at all levels of play. An example of what these installs could look like or could be for, say, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Let's start with Sub-Zero. By pressing one of the bumper buttons, you can activate this install. Let's just imagine that Sub-Zero becomes the Ice Clone. He encases himself in ice armor, where every hit slows the hit reaction. So say you land a mid, you might be able to combo off that mid with another string when you wouldn't otherwise, right? Or say the gravity of that character might be slowed dropping to the ground, right? Let's say every hit Sub-Zero hits while he's in this ice armor just slows the hit reaction and the gravity on these characters, as well as just being completely projectile immune, much like the Sub-Zero cameo in MK1. Let's say it's a combination of both. That would be Sub-Zero's install, right? It makes Sub-Zero this super powered ice ninja who doesn't care about projectiles, and when he does land the hit, starts slowing you down, right? Let's say if Scorpion had his install ready, take off his ninja mask with the flames and the skull, right? And have a dot flaming aura around him. Then while in this state, can do teleport into teleport on block, and do entirely new special moves from teleport with spear and different sort of flame attacks from the mouth. Make Scorpion feel like this vengeful, aggressive wraith that he is. He wants to find and, well, kill Sub-Zero, right? I think introducing a mechanic like this and having this be something each character has the option to do would be extremely fun for MK and give power to players at all levels of play. Now let me set this up for you, building upon the install idea within the same game. All of the ideas I'm going to present all fit within the same game, this next Mortal Kombat game, on top of adding installs to every character, right? These are all going to be things added on into this same imaginary title. Now you might be asking, what about Fatal Blow? What about the super mechanic that was introduced in MK11 and carried into MK1? What about the health threshold? What about Fatal Blows? The thing about Fatal Blows that were largely negative was the ease of use for this comeback mechanic. You would see a Fatal Blow every single game. Not only was it repetitive and sometimes annoying given the length of these Fatal Blow animations in current MK, but it also just took away from the excitement of seeing a Fatal Blow, say here and there. So I say, if we're going to make this game more exciting, we once again bring Fatal Blows back to what they were in MK9. We bring it back to the bar. We bring it back to the meter. If you have 3 bars of meter, you can then spend your Fatal Blow. And if you miss this Fatal Blow or they block it, you lose all of the bar you just spent. Now, for some, this might sound like it takes away from the excitement, but absolutely not. I think seeing a Fatal Blow every game takes away from what makes a Fatal Blow special. It takes away from what makes a super animation so cool, right? When you would see Bane in Injustice actually hit his super, everybody would freak out because you don't get to see that every single game. Whereas now you're seeing Fatal Blows every game. The animations take 8 seconds, right? And it just isn't exciting anymore. So I say we tie Fatal Blow to the bar. Again, still activating it with both triggers, still making it accessible to use when you do have the bar, right? So now we have install super traits for every character that last longer depending how low your health is. And we have Fatal Blows, once again tied back to meter, still being accessible and easy to use given you have the bar, without the redundant feeling that has become of Fatal Blows today. But how do we make this game more exciting beyond just the one-on-one combat, beyond the faster pace that will make the characters feel even cooler, more supernatural, more powerful to play? How do we make it feel more exciting in a moment-to-moment basis that allows for player expression, player creativity, and thought about resources beyond just spending your bar for a meter burn special. How do we take the best aspects from every game and tie them together? What I'm suggesting here is we bring back the stamina gauge mechanic. We bring back the stamina gauge into Mortal Kombat, but in a different way. Allow me to paint a picture in your head. If you guys remember, in Mortal Kombat vs. DC, when a character would do their finisher, they would glow yellow. They would sort of strike a pose, their eyes would glow yellow, their body would glow yellow, and then they would perform their finisher. Apply this to using stamina from this stamina gauge to do run canceling, to do crushing blows, to perform your breaker. Yes, your breaker. All of these mechanics tied to the stamina. Now let me explain this more in depth in relation to this theoretical game. Imagine performing a mid-string into a run cancel where you glow yellow and you spend 25% of your stamina bar to cancel your string into a follow-up attack or special. Imagine spending half of your stamina gauge to glow yellow and perform a crushing blow without requirements. These crushing blows would be different from the crushing blows before, where instead of offering insane damage, these crushing blows will instead offer more utility and combo expression, like launchers, restands, crumples, sliding knockdowns, all with no requirement and at the cost of 50% of this stamina bar. And let's say you do all of that in one combo in conjunction with spending some bar from your meter burn specials, in conjunction with the install mechanic if it's active at the time. It would make for a crazy fun, interesting, and engaging mechanic for all levels of play. Something else to think about aside from your bar, from your health. It's something else that would bring more players, more player expression. The stamina bar would also be tied to your breaker. So no longer are you going to be spending your bar for your breaker. You might be able to save your bar more often for those fatal blows now, right? You'll now have to wait until you have full stamina to perform your breaker. The trade-off being, if you want to do these run cancels, if you want to do your crushing blows, you are sacrificing your ability to breaker if the opponent lands a hit on their turn. Let's also tie in more mechanics like flawless blocking. Let's say you flawless block a move. It will add more stamina back to your stamina gauge. So rewarding defensive play by giving you the ability to build your stamina gauge for more offense or saving the gauge for your breaker. So to recap, we have a run cancel that will cost 25% minimum of your stamina gauge. Of course, if you wanted to keep running, you could keep spending your stamina to run towards the opponent. We have crushing blows for 50% of your stamina gauge. Crushing blows without requirements and with utility to them instead of damage, like restands, crumples, sliding knockdowns, etc. And then we have breaker for 100% of that stamina gauge. The stamina gauge will slowly refill over time, slower than MKX, and can be built faster through flawless blocking attacks. It also allows us to reintroduce push blocking for say 50% of that stamina bar. Again, sacrificing your offense and your breaker to push block your opponent off of you for a brief moment in time, so you're able to maybe take your turn back, re-engage, and land the hit. So now we have even more exciting gameplay on both offense and defense. We have the install super trait mechanic, and we have the one-on-one gory, supernatural feeling combat that we all know and love from Mortal Kombat. Another feature that NetherRealm introduced in MK vs. DC, Injustice, there's other franchises like Dead or Alive, Guilty Gear Strive, and even Tekken now. It's wall breaking. I want you to imagine a Mortal Kombat game where you're playing on the pit. If you don't know what the pit is, it's an iconic map where you're both fighting on a long, skinny platform under the moon with a bed of spikes underneath the fighting stage. I want you to imagine this. Imagine a Mortal Kombat game where you're fighting on the pit. You hit your opponent really hard in the face. It activates a wall break animation on the pit where, say, they fall really, really hard, but don't hit any spikes. And then you're both fighting in the spikes of the pit. Let's say there's a brutality connected to this specific wall break. Doesn't that just sound cool? Doesn't that sound like something you would want to do to somebody in a Mortal Kombat game? It sounds insane, but it's not far off because they have done it before. They've done wall breaking with Injustice, where it would take you to a completely different area of the stage. We saw what the stage designers were able to accomplish in Mortal Kombat 1. Hats off to all of them because every single stage is amazing. But imagine they were able to flex their muscles even more with Mortal Kombat and flesh out these maps even more so than they could before. I think what would be even cooler is if they reintroduced the wall break from Mortal Kombat vs. DC, where depending how many hits you would hit your opponent with after the wall break, they would take more damage damage from the wall break. For the purpose of this video and tying in all of these mechanics into this game that I am presenting here, let's say you have to dash cancel and then perform a specific crushing blow for the wall break to occur. Let's say that costs, say 25% for that specific crushing blow for the wall break, right? You then punch your opponent in the face like the MK9 main menu, and you launch them into a wall break interaction. From there, like in MK versus DC, you and your opponent are both going back and forth trying to swing at each other. Do I think it's possible? Absolutely, because they've done it before. Tying in some of the best Mortal Kombat mechanics to a stamina gauge, making the crushing blows more utility focused instead of damage focused, adding run canceling into moves or specials, but having a fair and balanced trade-off of resources while constantly staying engaged with the game system mechanics and the way you want to express your character. This is what I see Mortal Kombat can be. This is what I think Mortal Kombat can do. I think these devs have a lot of passion. I think WB needs to understand that these devs have a lot of passion. The community has a lot of passion. I have a lot of passion, and I don't want to see Mortal Kombat go the route or continue down the route it's been going. Monetization, as we've seen with Marvel Rivals, make it fair, make it player friendly, and they will come back. They will come in droves. You'll get more money than if you're trying to take from the consumer, right? These are things that Mortal Kombat can do, can be. You can make more money. It just takes a lot of passion. It takes a lot of belief in yourself, in your teams. It's going to take belief from WB to believe in NetherRealm, to bring what we love, to bring what they love to the Mortal Kombat community and to everybody around the world. Because this game and this community really is a big part of my life. Love, passion, friends, and memories that I will cherish for the rest of my life. And I want other people growing up like I did to have fond memories of what Mortal Kombat was when they grow up. I will be doing a video on Injustice and what Injustice could look like in the future if they ever decided to go back to it. Obviously, we had the WB earnings call talking about their focus on Mortal Kombat, but we'll still discuss what Injustice could look like in an upcoming video. So stay tuned for that one. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Tell me what you love about Mortal Kombat, any ideas you might have, and let's just have a conversation about this. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.